Ending of Gracie Allen, The Saddest Day in George Burns' Life. Gracie Allen was born Grace Ethel Cecile Rosalie Allen on July 26, 1895. Allen was the youngest daughter of George Allen, a well-known song and dance man who deserted the family when she was 5. Her mother, Margaret Dara Allen, would later remarry. Gracie, who had 3 sisters and a brother George, was hooked on show business from the age of 3, when she made her debut performing an Irish dance at a church social. When she was 14, she left school to join her sisters Hazel, Bessie, and Pearl in a vaudeville act. The girls later became members of the Larry Riley Company, in which Gracie was featured in Irish Colleen parts, complete with a fake Irish brogue to cover a real Irish brogue that for some reason didn't sound real enough on stage. Her sisters left the company one by one, and before long, Gracie Allen became a headliner. She eventually quit the company in a dispute over billing and unable to find another booking, enrolled in a secretarial school with every intention of becoming a stenographer. Allen lasted 3 months. On a backstage visit at the Union Hill Theater in New Jersey in 1923, she met George Burns. She was 21. He was 27 and looking for a partner. Originally, Allen was the singer-dancer of the act, while Burns was the comedian, dressed in baggy pants, a short coat, and a trick bow tie that twirled to signify a joke. As the straight man, Allen appeared in a lovely dress. When Burns noticed that people were laughing more at her straight lines than his toppers, he changed the routine. Gracie started delivering the punchlines. After 3 years of performing together, Burns and Allen were married in Cleveland on January 7, 1926. Though George had been secretly in love with Gracie throughout, it was no easy job getting her to agree to more than friendship. When she first met Burns, she had been engaged to vaudeville star Benny Ryan, and almost married him in 1925. Years later, on their show, she announced, "I just want everyone to know one thing. I was courted by the handsomest, most charming, most sought-after star in show business." "Thank you very much," Burns interrupted, "but I married George because I loved him." When Allen was a small child, she had pulled a boiling pot of tea off the stove, scalding her left arm and shoulder. For a while, doctors thought the arm might have to be amputated, though they finally managed to save it. It was badly scarred and could never be completely straightened out. Embarrassed, Allen kept it hidden. Throughout her life, Allen also suffered from severe migraine headaches, though she never let them interfere with a performance. Her work ethic was such that if she had a show scheduled, nothing kept her from it. Once, after breaking her nose when a taxicab stopped suddenly and threw her into the partition, she did 3 shows the following day. After their days on the road, radio and films introduced Burns and Allen to a larger audience who had read of them but had never seen them perform. In January 1931, they signed a movie contract with Paramount Studios. Following their first full-length film, The Big Broadcast of 1932, they would make close to 20 films together, while Gracie would appear without George in the Gracie Allen murder case, 1939, and Mr. and Mrs. North, 1942. On February 15, 1932, Burns and Allen gave the first performance of their radio show, which would also continue for close to 20 years and attract an audience of 45 million. The characters and routines were the same as the vaudeville act, with the plot typically revolving around Gracie's illogical logic. Allen had a minimal role in script preparation. 3 or so writers would submit the weekly script to Burns, who would decide what to cut and what to keep. In 1932, while the country was in the middle of the Depression, Burns and Allen were an unqualified success and were making as much as $10,000 a week. One of the great sorrows of Gracie's early married life was that she could not get pregnant. Coming from a large family, she missed having children. In the 1930s, when many of their show business friends were adopting, the couple contacted a foundling home in Illinois and added their names to the list of those wanting babies. Sandra Jean came first, followed about a year later by Ronald John, a premature, sickly 2-month-old, who spent most of the first year of his life in doctors' offices. Allen was a devoted mother, though she couldn't spend as much time with the children as she would have liked. She tried hard to make up for it. Rushing home from work, racing into the nursery before taking off her coat. She even took on the role of disciplinarian. According to Burns, her rules consisted basically of, watch Dad and don't do what he does. He said there were 3 things she wanted her children to be able to do: speak French, play the piano, and swim. On the grounds of their ranch house in Beverly Hills, she had a pool built, though she disliked spending time in the sun because of her fair complexion. She took private swimming lessons without telling anyone. One day, she dove into the pool and swam a lap. "See," she told the kids, "your mother can swim too." Burns says he never saw her near the pool again in October 1950. Burns and Allen made their television debut for the Columbia Broadcasting System in a bi-weekly series of live programs that were described as a carefully done replica of the radio show. The plots revolved around Burns and Allen as 2 performers at home. But, in an innovative touch, Burns was able to step out of the story, speak directly to the audience, and then step back into the action. Nothing like that had been seen before. At the end of most shows, Burns and Allen would come back on stage and do some of the old vaudeville routines. After the first few shows were broadcast from New York, they moved to the General Service Studio in Los Angeles. In 1952, they began filming the weekly show, shooting 39 episodes a season. It was an exhausting schedule with long hours in wardrobe and rehearsing. On Wednesdays, filming day began early and sometimes ended well after midnight. For Gracie, who frequently had to memorize 26 pages of dialogue in a 40-page script, it came at a time when she wanted desperately to ease up. The strain began to take its toll, the migraines increased, and she sometimes became tense and withdrawn. She kept the pace, however, not only for her husband, but for all those whose jobs depended upon her. As always, she worked, no matter how she felt, even after she suffered her first heart attack. Burns was amazed that Gracie, who seemed to have more energy than any woman in the world, would wind up with a bad heart. After her first attack in the early 1950s, she had several minor episodes over the next few years. It may have been inherited from her mother, who also died from heart trouble. Today, it would be called angina. Then it was called a heart condition, and treated with nitroglycerin pills. Whatever it was time to quit working. Burns and Allen filmed the final episode of their television show on June 4th, 1958. At the wrap, there was a bottle of champagne on the set, and a standing ovation from the crew. Gracie took one sip of champagne and said, "Okay, that's it." She paused for just a second, took a look around the set, and added, "And thank you very much, everyone." She then walked off the set and never looked back. In the 8 seasons the show aired, Gracie Allen received 6 nominations as Best Actress Comedienne, and the show received 4 nominations as Best Comedy Series. When she retired, Allen thought the television industry would finally vote her an Emmy, but it never did. Although she said she didn't care about awards, Burns knew she felt slighted. Allen truly enjoyed the first few years of retirement. Despite some bad bouts of chest pains and the continued migraines, she shopped, saw friends, played cards, and took up a new hobby, gambling. She had a gambling problem, Burns confessed. She was bad at it. When someone asked Gracie if she missed the good old days, she laughed. "They're always talking about the good old days." Believe me, the really good days are right now. The only thing that made her unhappy was the fact that each of her sisters, to whom she had remained close, had been put in rest homes. She worried that the same thing would happen to her. Sadly, in early 1964, as Gracie's heart condition grew worse, she began spending more time in confinement. Gracie Allen died on August 27th of that year. At age 62, she was buried in Forest Lawn Cemetery in Glendale, California. Goodbye, Gracie Allen. No audio.